years, and all these women went through the conversion process, and they all married him, and he ended up with 700 wives. He ended up with 700 wives. And the Torah says, Lo yaseres libo. He shouldn't, Lasheres noshim, pen yaseres libo. Because they're going to turn his heart. And he said, no, it's not going to happen to me because I am the Messiah. And because I'm the Messiah and we're living in Messianic times, none of this applies to me. And now there's a machloikus in the Gemara. There's an argument in the Gemara, in the Talmud, that says if you can wipe out the reason for a mitzvah, does the mitzvah, for a mitzvah, does the mitzvah not apply? If you can find something in written Torah that says, if XYZ happens, then therefore you have to do, ABC. If you can wipe out XYZ, does ABC still apply? There's actually an argument in the Talmud which way we hold on that. And we've always held, before the times of Solomon, that even if you wipe out the reason, you still have to do the mitzvah. Right? If you wipe out the reason, you still have to do the mitzvah. So he's like, nah, we're gonna hold by the other person in the Talmud. And there's another voice in oral Torah, and it says if we can wipe out the reason, we can wipe out the mitzvah. So he said, hey, I'm not gonna do anything wrong here. I'm above all this. I'm the Messiah. I have special powers, obviously, and therefore we're not gonna go back to Egypt if I increase in horses, and therefore I'm not gonna have my heart turned away if I add too many wives, because the reason is gone. There's no reason anymore. And if there's no reason, then you don't have to worry about the mitzvah. And there's no reason to worry, then I'm going to turn, turn my heart, because that's not going to happen. So I can, therefore, there's no problem with adding on wives. Fine. So he married 700 wives, and he was fine with it. They all converted and they became Jews, and everybody followed the Torah. All 700 wives were following the Torah, and he was still young, and he had them all in different houses around the city of Jerusalem. He used to go from house to house. He used to satisfy all his wives. Now, there's something you might want to think about. How did he satisfy 700 women?
Viagra.
Viagra, very good. That's how he did it. They had Viagra, and he satisfied 700 women. Okay, that was all going really good until he started getting really old. And when he was really old and he was on his deathbed for a while, he could no longer make the rounds, and he couldn't satisfy these women. And it turns out that these 700 wives, who all grew up practicing idolatry, they all had idols, they all slowly became bored with Judaism, because if your partner is not into it, what happened? If your partner is not, they started equating Judaism with Solomon. As long as he was keeping them happy, they were into it. But when the guy was dying, they were like, whatever. So they went back to their old ways. And they started bowing down to Avodah Zorah. They bowed down to their old idols. And there was 700 different idols, and each one was being prayed to and serviced a different way. And Solomon was unaware of it because he's dying on his deathbed. He can't make these rounds. He can't keep control of the thing. If you can't control your women, you know what they do. You know what women do when you can't control them anymore. They go crazy, So there's a thing in the Torah, and it says that if you have a chance to prevent somebody from doing an avera, from doing something wrong, and you don't do anything to prevent them from doing it, it's credited as if you did it yourself. Like if I see that you're about to have sex, let's say, with a really smoking hot black woman, and I say,
Levi.
If I say, I'm not going to say anything, right? Because, I know it's wrong, but let Levi bang
Let Levi be Levi.
Let Levi be Levi, let him have a good time, knock himself out, because maybe he'll get some backdoor action with this smoking hot black chick.
Too.
And maybe she's got big breasts and everything, and you're thinking, wow, this is a black...
I don't want to judge.
You're you've got this Africanized woman with these big,
Africanized
bangy boobies, and you're thinking to yourself, and I'm thinking, okay, let him have his way, let Levi, have a little fun there with this smoking hot black chick, let him do the backdoor action, I'll leave him alone. So Torah says, oh, you know what, buddy? Just like Levi picks up a transgression, Rabs picks one up, because I could have said something. I said, Levi, what the fuck are you doing? Right? You're supposed to be the moral leader, and now you're going to bang this beautiful black bitch, from the back door. Are you going to throw it all away for that?
And pick up HIV in the process.
And pick up HIV, and then you can post about it, and then say, oh, I'm joking, bitch. Okay,
it's
so
just gonorrhea.
Right. Question:
And,
Do you
and a little
think?
bit of penicillin just takes care of that, just like that.
Right. And I'm sorry, you guys. If you've been asking questions, there's no way we're going to know about it because we're way back here and we haven't been watching the chat room. Sylvia says, Rab, question: Do you think that these people, because they were asked to convert versus wanting to convert, made a huge difference? That's possible, because they were asked. It wasn't from themselves, whatever. Yeah, it was kind of like a bogus conversion, retroactively. Retroactively, I'd say it was a bogus conversion because anyone, this as being a Garrett, right? Anyone who makes the thing and they say I'm going to be a Torah Jew, right? And they become the whole thing, and then they go back to what they were. Then I say that, in my opinion, they were never from to begin with. They were never Jewish to begin with. If you go back, let's say, and you become a Seventh-day Adventist now, I'm going to say Levi was never a Jew. Retroactively, you were never a Jew.
So a lot of people out there watching think, oh, Levi, he's the moral leader. He's the embodiment of holy Torah Judaism. He's not susceptible to the same temptations that I am. But there was a time in my life when I was. Remember, I was in the back seat of my car with this woman, and I wanted her to do something to me. But before she'd do it, she wanted to say a prayer to Jesus. And I said, fine. So you give most men the choice, okay, if a woman says to him, yeah, I'll sleep with you, but first you have to bow down to this idol. 99% of men will bow down to the idol. 99% of men will do anything to get laid with a fresh hot chick. So that's why it's so important that fresh hot chicks who are looking to get it on don't use that power to tempt men into idolatry. It's basically like hot chicks rule the world. They have the power to get men to do anything. So don't use your power to get men to worship idols.
Okay. Let me just get these things from the chat room. I'll get back into the story. Rabs, one girl I know who is a Russian Jew, says D-Medic. I mean, she calls herself Jewish, but she married a Catholic. Is that acceptable? Well, what do you think? No, Judaism says that a Jew must marry a Jew, and a non-Jew must marry a non-Jew. That the two can't intermarry. There's no such thing as a marriage between a Jew and a non-Jew. It has no basis. It's not a marriage. It's milk and meat, oil and vinegar. Is that what it is? Oil and water? They don't mix.
Back door and front door.
But, okay, I didn't say that. So, it's like they don't mix, it's trying to be a UCLA and a USC fan. You can't be both. You got to pick one or the other, Can't call yourself a socialist and a libertarian. It don't work. Can't be a Lakers and a Boston fan. Okay. That's not acceptable. Sylvia says, is censored loving a form of idolatry? I don't know what the censored word is there, but I don't think that any form of love, pussy loving, is pussy loving a form of idolatry? Do you idolize the pussy?
No, I don't, but there were times in my life where I was much more susceptible to those temptations than I am today.
I think the pussy has a power.
It does. But, I
don't
use that kind of language because I'm a Torah Jew.
I think it has power, and when people attribute too much power to the pussy, then I think that would be turning it into a form of an idol. And then since it's an idol, we'd have to burn it, wouldn't we? All right. Hey, get back in the camera. You're jumping out of the...
Can we pull up my page?
No, because I'm not done talking about Solomon. Let me finish this up here. Let me get to the conclusion. Now that we just broke it up with a little sex talk, not bad. So that was the story. So he was on deathbed, and the Torah says if you have the power to prevent someone from doing a transgression, and you don't do it, so you're credited as if you did it yourself. Solomon had the power, technically, to go around and stop the 700 women from committing avodah zorah, but he didn't, and they went ahead and did it. And so the Torah says to this guy on his deathbed, because you're dying and you can't get out around the house, you can't get out around the city and stop these people from all bowing down to idolatry. It's as if you bowed down to idolatry yourself. So the Torah records that Solomon bowed down to idols. The guy was on his deathbed. Why is God so mean to Solomon, the wisest man of all, to trash his good name forever and say that he bowed down to idols when the guy was on his deathbed? He wasn't bowing down to idols. He just had no power to go chase these women. And the answer is that because he violated that thing where it says don't increase in wives. Yeah, even though you had a svara that you were the Mashiach, but because you went ahead and did that, so it's like saying, you know what, buddy, you should never think you're the Mashiach. Don't ever put yourself above